things you love with TCL.
Hockey, yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
Yeah, this game was a little different with, last game was a grind. Like, it was just like, oh, man, but this game was back and forth grinding, and there wasn't a lot of shots, but it was a back and forth compete game, and, everyone was, every player on both sides were fighting for every inch that was out there. So this had a real good hockey game feel, a real, like you say, playoff atmosphere.
Oh, yeah.
You like that?
I like how that,
you like that?
I like how that tastes.
You like how that tastes? Welcome into Judd's Hockey Show with executive producer and co-host Declan Goff. It is a full show today. It is not a one-timer because there's so much to talk about, including the Wild's sweep on Monday and Wednesday, the Vegas Golden Knights at the XL Energy Center. The Wild now in third place in the West, but only a couple points behind the Golden Knights and I believe 1 point behind the St. Louis Blues. Everything has been going pretty well of late since the Wild got back home from splitting a series or splitting 2 games against the Arizona Coyotes, who the Wild will now play 3 consecutive games. And previous to that, they actually lost a pair of games against the Golden Knights. Dean Evison, in the soundbite that you just played, Declan Goff, said something which is where I want to start, okay?
Okay.
And I think you've got some thoughts off of this as well.
All right, hit me.
Thursday night's game was certainly not perfect. Wild up 4-1 in the third period. Damn near blew it.
For the second time.
Alex Tuck missing an empty net late, which I think, Joel Eriksson, I think that you all got a stick on it. He certainly helped make Tuck try to adjust his shot. Sure. And Tuck ultimately missed what was a wide open net because Kaapo Kahkonen had made a save and was then out of position. All of that, I get the fact that the Wild won, the most important thing. I get the fact that it probably was not perfection. But where Dean is right is that was a playoff game, basically. Yeah. Like the ebb and flow. The second period was not great, but there were a lot of elements to that game that Dex, I thought, had very much a playoff feel. And I can't tell you how much damn fun it is to watch a game that has a playoff feel in March of a shortened season and to come away feeling like, you know what? The Wild can really compete now. This is a different, this is such a different, because the previous teams, you always felt that there was just some type of flaw that was going to submarine them, right? That game last night to me was indicative of a very hard win, hard fought, but really impressive. And it's the path that this franchise is going down.
Yes, it is. I mean, I told you on the last podcast that I think if you get one more piece here, because by the way, I believe Mark Stone was back on Wednesday.
He was.
Petrangelo was not.
Yeah, Petro was sent home. Petro was sent home. So Stone was back last night.
But they got their captain back, and he's an integral part of their team. I told you on Monday that, look, at full strength, the Knights are still a better team than the Minnesota Wild. If you get a center, I'm curious. But at the same time, and I can get nitpicky here because I can talk out of both sides of my mouth. So I'll go the left side of the right side. Man, I can't believe I just did that. I'll go off the right side of my mouth for what has actually happened. I will strip myself up there.
You're among friends here. Don't worry about it. Among
the 4 games the Wild have played, the Wild have won 3. The Wild have won 3 out of 4 against the Las Vegas Golden Knights so far this season. At the same time, 2 of those 3 wins, you nearly blew it. You know, like on Monday, the first meeting of the season, you blew that game. Yesterday, you nearly blew that game. So you were that close to actually now flipping the script and having lost 3 out of 4 games to Las Vegas because you almost collapsed in the third period. Yeah. And hey, credit to Peter DeBoer pulling that goalie, pulling a Patrick Wall with 4.5, 5 minutes left, and it worked. It worked for them. Yeah. Because what I didn't want to see was in that third period when the Wild came into the period tied, they scored a couple goals, they kept their foot on the gas pedal, and of course my kiss of death, right as I tweet that out, they go in their prevent defense mode, which is just infuriating to me. And now, was that a DeBoer tactic, pulling Fleury, getting the team a little spiked up? There might be a little bit something there, but I kind of don't like to fall into those stupid hockey tendencies, 2-goal leads, all that nonsense. I try to stay away from it. At the end of the day, it's a damn game. all in all, you look at the 30,000-foot view, the Wild have won 3 out of 4 against Las Vegas, and I think this would be an entertaining playoff series in a best-of-7. It has the similar feel, certainly different teams and different situations, Judd, but has a very similar feel to me to the first Colorado Avalanche series from 2003. You have a stacked Colorado team. Like that Colorado team in 2003 was leaps and bounds on paper better than the Minnesota Wild.
Oh, yeah,
and the Wild should never have been able to hang with them,
that
right?
was a way bigger difference.
Huge
that
difference.
was coaching.
Yeah, it was coaching.
That was
it was Walls putting the clamps down on that line.
Granato had no clue what he was doing.
Granato was a rookie coach. DeBoer is not a rookie, but it has the feel of, on paper at least, that Las Vegas Golden Knights team is superior to the Wild. Like if you look just at a third, like it's pretty obvious that the Vegas Golden Knights are a better team than the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah, they're deeper.
They're deeper.
No question.
But at the same time, the Wild, this pesky team, can give them fits. And I'm curious to see if you get a legit center, Judd. I think this elevates the entire conversation. It's not just anymore, hey, is it Vegas and Colorado as the two teams in the West Division that'll probably make a case and run for a cup? The Wild are right in it if you get the right center here. And I'm curious how that goes.
It's 2 of 4, right? Against the Golden Knights, because they lost. They blew the game. They blew game 1.
Correct.
Then they got blown out, or they got beat badly in game 2, and then they just swept. So I think it's 2 of 4.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. But here's the positive spin I'm going to put on what you just said. Okay. Here's what I love. Number one, this team is everything that the previous team was not, which is I absolutely love. They work hard. I think they've got 2 stars. Like Fiala on his best nights can be a star. Kaprizov's a star, right?
Yeah.
But everybody works hard. Like think about the amount of unentitled players that dot this roster now. And it starts with the Ek line. Like Ek and Foligno and Greenway are good players, but think about how much decks they apply themselves. And this is, in my opinion, the 180 of previous Wild teams in this sense. It's not only fun to watch, they're likable. Like this is what I wanted opening night. I said, I think this team might be likable. And so far they have been. Like you like watching them. You don't end up muttering below your breath a bunch of expletives because somebody took a shift off or there's a goal and a guy throws his head back like, what was I supposed to do? Right? Yeah. The woe is me Boudreaux phrase was absolutely appropriate. This team, think about the amount of players who might not be great, but they have some skill, but they work their ass off. Yeah. I love that. But here's so to your point, on the center, you're 1,000% right. Like there's no debating that. Victor Rask is not coming around. Nick Bjugstad works. He does work sometimes, not as consistently as I would like, but he works, but he's not coming around. Like you're not going to land on Bjugstad and say, oh my God, okay, we were wrong. Second line, here you go. He's not that guy. So what you just said and went through is 1,000% right. But where I'm going to give them a break and what I love, because I was so, offended and disgusted by previous Wild teams,
go for it,
is I love the track they're on. Like, let's say I think they're going to make the playoffs. And I now think that there's a very good chance in the first round that they'll lose, but they'll give a team fits. Like, I think they'll play hard and give a team fits. And you know what, too? Goaltending could make the difference. I don't know. Kaapo gets hot. All of that being said, do I think that this franchise is near where they should land in a couple of years? No, I don't. But I'm enthusiastic again because I think they're on the right course. And that includes a multitude of things. One is you've got a couple players now. Like you got guys, Kaprizov can score. Kaprizov is great. Fiala works hard, can score, right? Mm-hmm. You've got a solid blue line. You're going in the right direction, but you're not there yet. But I'm cool with that now. So I'm back to, but I like this team more, to the Colorado series in, was that 2014 or 15 when they upset them in game 7 on Nino's goal?
Yes, 2014.
And that was when we were all excited because it looked like that group was going to develop. They didn't, but it looked like they were going to. But like the future held something then that made you enthusiastic. And then eventually you just threw up your hands and said, I quit with this team because they quit. I'm back to that point, though, of being enthusiastic. Here's the difference. You've got 2 stars now. Like before it was, well, Parise and Suter, right? They can do it. And then eventually you're like, no, they probably can't.
They need help.
So you're back to building this the right way. If you get a center before the deadline, good for you. But even if you don't, you know you're going to eventually. Rossi is going to come back. This just is all tracking. And I know this is Judd. Right now, you're saying to yourself, what the hell has happened to the real Judd who threw him out of the studio?
I did.
But this is what we wanted. And for all of the moaning and complaining and griping that we did, this is why.
Yep.
They're doing the right thing now. This is why that I found the previous group detestable. And I know y'all might have loved Koivu or Eric Stahl or Granlund. I don't know. Y'all might have loved them, but they weren't ever going to be the answer. And any objective person could see that. Well, now they've got some people that are the answer, and they're building upon that. This is what we always kept saying. You've got to blow up that locker room for.
Correct.
So congratulations, Bill Guerin and Dino. Dean Everson, congratulations.
And Paul Fenton.
And Paul, yeah.
Couple truth bombs for you here, because number one, the evidence is right in your face. The Granlund, the Coils, the Ninos of the world, you're better off without them. Like, it's right here in front of you. The evidence is in your face right now that those trades did not handicap and set your franchise back.
And
if you do, I want you to look yourself in the mirror and repeat that to yourself.
And your locker room better without Stahl as well.
And big time. Look,
and your personnel is not. That's what's interesting.
Correct.
Like, you would take him back as a player, but as a locker room, you would not.
I tweeted out last night that I said, look, I applauded Bill Guerin for acquiring the Boninos, the Bukesteds, the Johansson of the world, because it was a different look and different fit. And I also believe that those three guys are most likely going to be gone. Nick Bonino, on the other hand, look, his play on the ice, and he's exactly who he is. He's a bottom line player. He's a face-off specialist. He's a penalty killer. But you're paying him, and Bill Guerin wants him here for what he does in the room. And there is value in that. But it's on-ice production, replaceable. His off-ice production, hard to find. I think you can say both those things are true. And when you're looking at these young superstars that you just said, so at one point it was the Granlund and Coyle and Ninos, and they were rising up. Well, let me give you some numbers here for Fiala, Eriksson Ek, and Kirill Kaprizov.
Okay.
So right now, Kevin Fiala with 8 goals. That's 0.38 goals per game. You multiply that over 82 game season. That's 31 goals. Joel Eriksson Ek, he's already at 10 goals this season. He doesn't score pretty, but he scores goals. I don't care if they happen. They're goals.
No, yes, you are correct. Keep going. Sorry.
He'd be on pace for a 34 goal season.
Yep.
If it was an 82 game year.
Yep.
Kirill Kaprizov, the Lord and Savior of this team. My Dollar Bill Kirill t-shirt is here.
Yeah.
Did I sleep in this t-shirt last night? Maybe I did. Will I never take it off again? I don't know.
I'm too close to you.
Sure.
This glass isn't breaking the smell.
But if Kirill Kaprizov, you take his numbers, you multiply it over 82 game season, that's 68 points. I just gave you 3 guys, all under the age of 25. 2 of them 30 goal scorers.
Yep.
1 of them a 70-point guy.
Yep.
And now all you need is one more down the middle. You have goaltending. You have defensive depth. There is one key missing ingredient. And now, like you said, how do you want to address that? Do you want to go and try to mortgage something early right now to make that call? Would you rather wait one more year and try to get Marco Rossi healthy and make sure he's good to go? And maybe you try to sign someone in free agency or trade for someone later this summer after your season has ended. I think it's more likely it's the latter path. I understand that. But I do think there is something to be said about Minnesota sports, and this goes to the Twins, the Vikings, I guess the Wolves, that we are always saying, wait for one more year. And these are educated people. These are diehard people. There's a lot of people that will come out of their mouths and say, just wait one more year. Honestly, I am saying bleep that. It's a COVID-shortened season. Things are wacky. If you see a window right now to make a run for a cup, you have to consider mortgaging things that are significant importance and going and get it right now. Because you don't know what could happen. What if Kevin Fiala hurts his leg in training camp? What if Joel Eriksson Ek comes crashing down to earth next season? There's so many variables at play that always go into 1 year from now. Yep. So if you see a window to do it, Bill Guerin, friend of the show, go and do it.
What can you get right now? That's my question, though. That's my question. What can you get? And like, I'm with you if you can do it. But, and here's the most important thing. I trust what they're doing, and I trust Guerin. And that's a long ways away from where I was previously, right? Let's talk about Bonino and Ian Cole, okay?
Okay.
Because I think there's a very important discussion, and it's sort of the conclusion to a discussion that we've had on Judd's Hockey Show for a few years now. And I saw the North Stars do the same thing with players who worked hard and weren't necessarily great, but when they had success, I've come up with a name for them.
Okay.
They're culture changers. They're culture changers. They are the diuretic of sports. They help you flush out your system from the previous people who screwed up your culture. Okay? So they are like a special diet shake that the rest of your team drinks in a good way to flush out the bad and to institute the new. And BONINO and Cole, I mean, Cole was traded for what? Patterson, right? He played, but he wasn't great. And I don't think he was a bad guy. I don't think he was a bad guy at all. But he was just sort of there. Like he was a third defensive pairing guy who played and didn't play. But when he played, he was just sort of there. But BONINO and Cole, to me, have helped reshape that room to empower those. You see, this is the problem. And I get notes saying like, oh, Judd, give me examples of what went wrong in the room. Like, do you really need examples to not understand that room was not a good place? Like, you bow out of the playoffs as easily and as much as they did. The Blues series, Jake Allen. What's going to be our plan against Jake Allen? Let's shoot from as far away as possible and make him look good. And then at the end of the series, we'll say, look at the shots on goal. That's a lazy culture. That's the culture that this team embraced previously, okay? BONINO and Cole have helped empower a room. So you know what? It strengthens Declan Goff. It strengthens the guys like Ek. And it strengthens and emboldens guys like Foligno. And now Spurgeon, who probably doesn't talk a ton, but is a very good player, and I think, again, is a good guy, is emboldened to take control. So Jared Spurgeon can't just stand up and be like, I'm the captain and here's what we're going to do. But if the Ian Coles and Nick Boninos of the world defer to him and empower him, guess who's going to listen? Everybody else, right? I want to give you an example of something very small, and if you choose to minimize this, it's your right. Okay. But I saw something on the bench last night that I absolutely loved, and I would ask you, when's the last time you saw this? Okay. Third period, Kaapo, before the near collapse, I think it was still 4-1. Kaapo made a really nice save. He made a huge save. And on the bench, the Foligno line, led by Foligno, stood up and started hitting their sticks really loudly off the bench, like a kid's hockey game. Like, that was big. That was huge, right? It's a small thing, but it's not. Because it's how invested the majority of this team is in others' successes. I would have never said that about this team the past previously 4 years, ever. But Foligno, that's who he is. Foligno, at the end of games, waits at the end, on the ice, at the end of the bench to congratulate guys when they win. And he's now gotten in the habit of taking Zuccarello and lifting him up and hugging him. Little stuff. Sure. And you can minimize it all you want. But I'm telling you right now, in sports and in hockey, it's incredibly important, and it shows you how different this team is. And I will guarantee you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, if they had a 4-1 lead in the third period last night, 2 years ago, this team blows that lead, and they lose in overtime.
2 points to make up. Number one, a few points. First, love that. I do genuinely love that, because there is something to be said about hockey culture and also the importance of that room. I'll take you back. 4 years ago when they got Jake Allen, as I like to say, from the Blues. They got Jake Allen by the Blues. And who had the most damning quote in that locker room at the end? Do you remember who it was? Wasn't Prezier, Suter, wasn't Koivu, it was Eric Hall. And he said, what is this, 4 years in a row? I'm sick of this crap. I'm sick of it. That's right. What do we got to do? Now, look, Eric Hall, maybe not the most standing individual to judge a culture by the room, but why is it that it's Eric Hall saying that I am the most pissed off about this right now? Yep. And I know people wear their emotions differently in all aspects of life, athletes or non-athletes, but I thought that was incredibly telling. And then when you have Bill Guerin come out this summer on Michael Russo's podcast and say, there's something rooted in the culture here after I've been here for a year, and it has to change. So when you see Eric Stahl get flipped for a lesser player in Marcus Johansson, it's not because Marcus Johansson is a better player. It's because there's something rooted in the culture that has to change. And for the lack of a better word, Eric Stahl was a part of that problem. Mikko Koivu was a part of that problem. That group was. And the Nieder, I don't think necessarily the Niederreiters, the Zuckers, the Granlund, the Quills were bad eggs in that locker room. But you've brought up the point that it's contagious once you can see what you can get away with and what leaders set for you. It's legitimately, you lead by example. And if you see how that's what's going on in your own locker room and going on in your own household, you can just get away with crap like that. So that's why you had to literally blow up that room, and it was so hard to say goodbye to those players. I get that you're a fan and you're invested, and I love that you're passionate about that. But also, when you look back on it now, that all those guys, the majority of those guys, the Hollis and all those young players are gone, and Koivu and Stahl are gone. Do you really think the subtractions of those teams, of those players, have hurt the Minnesota Wild here on March 11th, 2021, and going forward into other seasons? It hasn't.
No.
It honestly has not.
It's a benefit.
It's so, and we've been on this train of thought for a while, but that's why I can't get down with the fact of like, you're still holding Paul Fenton to a grudge for flipping Nino Niederreiter for Victor Rask. Yeah, it was a bad trade on paper. I get that. Victor Rask is not the player. Nino's thriving in Carolina. Okay, he's having a great year, but guess what? This team is better without Nino Niederreiter too. Like both those statements can be true. It's not black and white. So it's just fascinating to me to get off my soapbox there.
I just thought that this was a team, and it's hard to accept. This was a team that at some point in time within the last 3 or 4 years, it was very clear that they weren't going to be successful off the ice until they changed, or on the ice until they changed what was off the ice. It was clear as day. It was, you could go in. I mean, Dex, previous to COVID, we went into that post-game room a lot. Yeah. And you could feel it. And to your Holla point, how many times did we talk about why is Marcus Foligno the stand-up guy here? You know, why is, now it makes more sense. Yes. And it fits. But, 3 years ago, Marcus Foligno's the spokesman, and he's the only one spitting out the truth. That doesn't have to do with himself. There were a lot of quotes about sort of how I'm affected, but there was very little stand up. Hey, this is about me too and the team. So this is why I now have, it's going to sound weird to say, this is why I now have patience again, because I like where they're going. If they can get a center immediately, awesome. But if they can't, we are seeing a lot of good things, including this to transition.
All right.
Hold on.
What do you got for me?
Oh, I'm gonna do it because by my count, 6 for 76 now. That's right. That is right. Let's see.
There you go.
Last night at the Xcel Energy Center, a sighting as rare as Bigfoot. A power play goal. The power play is now 6 for 76, 7.9% on the season, and fittingly, it was the franchise, dollar bill, Kirill, who scored the power play goal. It had to happen. I don't know if it's going to break the stretch.
Was incorrect.
But Kirill scores after taking a puck in the face in the first period.
Yeah.
And I was concerned about his eye because he had the towel around his eye. And then I think he got stitched up. Kirill Kaprizov comes back in, and the Wild has 2 power plays last night, and they score on 1. And we'll see if this breaks the ice. Now, they basically rotated the lines through again. So they went back to that. They had done that a few weeks ago because the power play was going so bad. They essentially just went to rotating the lines. Then the last last week or so, it went back to a official power play unit, and Zuccarello was on the point along with Suter. And then last night when they scored that power play goal, if I'm not mistaken, it was Kaprizov, Zuccarello. Who was the center?
Bukestad was out there for,
okay, because
I think for the goal.
That's just the line. Yes, that's right. Bukestad. And then by the time they scored the power play goal, the points were the Dumba and Brodin duo. But anyway, we finally get a power play goal. And I do have to believe that this is going to break the ice a bit, because there's no way when you've got 97 and 22 on your team that you should be historically bad on the power play.
Yeah. It was awesome to see them actually score a power play goal, because like you said, it's like seeing Bigfoot out in
Kaprizov worked for it too.
Might have been Nord. Yes, he did.
Jumped on that puck in the slot.
And I will say, and very interesting having a different broadcast team on the team on the call yesterday.
Go ahead and talk about it. You'll talk about it every time. Don't pull punches now.
It was great to hear. And you could even hear them say, you had Eddie-O as color And I
John Forsland?
And I believe Forsland was your play-by-play.
John Forsland's very solid.
Yeah, it wasn't the
future voice of the Seattle Kraken, by the way.
Yes. Oh, no. Was not him.
Okay.
Not the voice. I know you're talking about, but not the voice
Kenny Albert?
of the Kraken. It wasn't my boy Kenny either. I just forget who it was. But it was
Brendan
great
Burke?
to hear another perspective on the Minnesota Wild, because also that power play was working for the Wild yesterday. There was option. They were getting halfway decent looks.
Yeah.
Zuccarello was putting the puck on net. Kaprizov was putting himself right in front of it. If you can just, it's just like when you hit a nice golf shot, when like you shank 9 in a row and then you hit one perfect one. It's like, oh my God, why can't I just do that every time? It's the same thing watching the power play. So I was infatuated seeing them score a power play goal, because it just hasn't happened. And you can see the emotion from Kaprizov when he scores the goal. Like it's great. It's great.
He probably started crying.
And look, there is something to be said. And I know some people have said, well, look, they score 5-on-5. It's fine. And it's good. Scoring 5-on-5 at an elite level does typically translate to deep playoff success. So that is good. But folks, you do have to be better than 6.5%. You will not make it converting 5% of your power play opportunity. If you can get that up to 10 or 15 even, which is still below league average. A league average power play is about 20.
And 6% is not even possible, really.
It really isn't. If you can up that to 10 or 15 by the end of the year, I mean, then we're okay. It's not completely abysmal. It's below league average, but it is not something that we've never seen before, which is what the Wild are tracking to shatter the NHL record for a power play percentage. Not just like, oh, they're flirting with it. No. They are on track to shatter.
It's almost 8% now. Come on, let's all calm down.
Okay, so it's now it's a percent there. Yes, it was great to see them score on a power play. I was very happy. Very happy to see them score on a power play for once.
Kaapo Kahkonen. All right,
yes.
He's next. So we talked about him on the one-timer that we did after the Wild won game one of the 2 games against Vegas on Wednesday, I believe. Or no, Tuesday. So here's the thing with Kaapo. Right now, he is your number 1 goaltender. I like him a lot. I think he's played well. He played obviously better on Monday than Wednesday, but he's been solid. I still think he does a nice job of playing a calm game for the most part, where there's not a lot of drama, covers up rebounds, although that Tuck one was very juicy. All of that being said, I don't want to be misconstrued here, and I'm not sure what your feeling is on this when it comes to Kaapo. Kaapo right now to me is the 1A goaltender. He has taken that from Cam Talbot, but make no mistake, if the Wild is going to make the playoffs and be successful at all, both goaltenders have to be damn good. So I don't want this to be a Dubnyk thing, right? Oh man, now you found your top goaltender and everybody else can just play beat behind him once in a while. Like that got to me with the way the game's played now, the Dubnyk thing, and I know that he came in that first year and was phenomenal and basically single-handedly took this team to the playoffs. Yeah. But the Dubnyk thing became this all-consuming, very 1986. He's going to play all the time, isn't he? I am in no way, shape, or form trying to insinuate that I believe that Kaapo should be that guy. And so while I'm very impressed and I'm glad that he got the opportunity to prove himself, and I think he's continued to do a nice job, Declan, I don't want this to be now Talbot's the backup, right? You are going to be in this condensed schedule, which is ridiculous. You are going to need both these guys to shine consistently. I think that's a very fair thing to say while praising Kaapo for the most part with the fact he's done really well.
Yeah, it's hard to pull a goalie when he's won 8 in a row, and that's where Kaapo is at right now. And it's very clear that he's your number 1 guy right now. And I still think you can figure out ways to get Cam Talbot in. You got 3 against Arizona. He's going to start at least one of those.
I'd play him Friday night.
Yeah, I would probably play him Friday. And look, like you don't, and to the point I'm trying to make of him staying hot, just because you rest Kaapo on Friday does not mean like you're stopping a streak. This streak has had Talbot starts in between it of Kaapo winning 8 in a row. It's not like Kaapo Kahkonen has not started 8 games in a row. He's won his last 8 starts. So you can still figure out ways to get Cam Talbot involved. And for the betterment of Kaapo's health, and for this team, you need Cam Talbot to be exactly who Cam Talbot is, which is a league average goaltender. That's what I told you when they signed him. Yep. When we did our goalie exercise. You don't need Cam Talbot to play at a Vezina level. And look, Kaapo Kahkonen is flirting with the Rookie of the Year award, rightfully so, right up there with Kirill. He's not going to put himself in the Vezina top 3. He might get a couple cute votes here and there because he's having such a nice season.
Yep.
But you need Cam Talbot just to be a league average goaltender at this point. And that's okay. If you can get Cam Talbot to be a league average,
it speaks to how bad Dubnyk and Stalock were for a good portion of last season.
Exactly.
Because they weren't that.
Because if you can just get him to be a league, it's not an out like, oh God, here we go. We got to
that's what
Cam Talbot.
That's what people are going to think. Oh, we're back to Dubnyk. No, Dubnyk was much worse than a league average goaltender.
So I do think if Talbot can just be a league average dude, they're going to be just fine. And I'm curious to see how that goes.
So Kaapo, I put Kaapo on a short list of this. We're what? Are we 24 games in now?
Yeah, something like that.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yep.
I put Kaapo on a list of 2 here of the most pleasant surprises so far for this team, because Kaprizov is unbelievable, but we knew he was good, right? Like I'm pleasantly surprised by him stepping in and being this good immediately, but it's no secret that this guy thrived in Russia. So I wouldn't say that I'm really surprised. I just think he's great. Kaapo Kahkonen, to me, and Eriksson Ek are the most pleasant surprises. Eriksson Ek works his ass off.
Yes.
Which I love. Started to play really well, I thought, at times last year, but is a primary beneficiary now of Koivu being gone. And this guy has 10 goals, which leads the team, but he also is a candidate, I think at this point, for the Selke as the top defensive forward, which almost always goes fair not to a center in the entire league. Because Dex, his line is scoring goals, getting points, and consistently playing against the opponent's top line.
Mm-hmm.
And Eriksson Ek has matured and turned himself into a fantastic player. And it's almost like at some point in time, he realized what his skills were, because he's not a great player. He just works hard and he's got some talent. But it's almost like at some point in time, he either got sat down and was told or realized himself, I'm good, but if I do X, Y, and Z as far as my work goes, I can be great.
Correct.
And I think he's one of these guys, and they come along and they're special, who realize that I've got a skill for being a pest and for being really good defensively. And if I do that, it's going to lead to offense, ergo the goal scoring. So I can't tell you how impressed and pleasantly surprised I am by a guy who 2 years back I thought might be a complete first-round bust.
Yep.
And now has become one of probably the top defensive centers, and then by extension created offense, not just on this team, no, in the league.
Right or wrong, Joel Eriksson Ek will always be compared with Brock Besser till the day they retire. That's going to be the unfortunate nature of the beast. They were 3 picks apart. Minnesota could have taken Besser and taken the hometown kid. And Besser is being Brock Besser in Vancouver right now, which has taken a significant step back. I mean, I know they lost Markstrom, but I did not think Vancouver would basically be crashing down to earth really hard. I thought with the way they played in the playoff and the bubble last year that they were going to be a team to beat in Canada.
Yeah, they've been bad.
And right now, Brock Besser's been phenomenal, dude. He's got 14 goals. He's a sexy player. I want to use this analogy. Basically, you date Brock Besser or you marry Joel Eriksson Ek. You know, that's kind of where you're at right now. Like, do you want the stability? Do you know what you're getting with Joel Eriksson Ek? Is he as flashy and as sexy as Brock Besser, for the lack of better words? No, he's not. Mm-hmm. His talent is not going to be what drives him home. He works his ass off. He gets in front of the net and he does, like you said, X, Y, and Z to get the end result that he wants. And that's a good thing. And he plays a position of need right now, and he's doing a role of shutting down opposing line players, and he has quietly put himself in the Selke position. He should be a finalist for the Selke, and I don't think that's even a Homer glasses. And by the way, I don't think this is a podcast that puts on a lot of Homer glasses and Homer beer goggles by any means. But Joel Eriksson Ek belongs in that Selke conversation because of what he's able to do, and he's getting goals. Like, it'd be one thing if he was shutting down opposing lines and he only had 2 goals this year. He's getting goals.
He's got 10.
And I don't care how sexy they look. If they don't pull up on an ESPN top 10. I don't care about that.
That second goal last night was that Fleury, by the way, had the puck, and a lot of officials blow that dead, okay?
Yeah, they do.
But that goal was a testament to who he's become.
Correct.
Because he kept going. He just kept going. And guess what? They didn't blow a whistle. That's impressive. That's as impressive to me as a nice slap shot, right?
Yeah.
Or like a nice deke.
Yep.
When you basically get that call and keep going. And I'll go back to this well too, Dex. How many Wild players previously in previous years would have basically stopped, watched Fleury cover that puck, and listened to the whistle?
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean to pile on, but I have to. I feel like I have to because this is exactly what we wanted. Like, this is why it was so bad. And I think a lot of people got that, and I think a lot of people didn't. But this is why it was so bad. And this is why the tide is turning now. I got a question for you off of a guy I think is next to Kaprizov, is your favorite player on this team.
Yep, I know it is.
How difficult is it? Because it was difficult for me in the press box last night to watch this. And this guy on Monday had a great game. It was difficult for me to watch Kevin Fiala with Rask and Parise.
Mm-hmm.
Because Kevin Fiala is, I think, arguably the fastest player on that team. If not the fastest, he's top 3.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, him and Kirill are.
And Rask and Parise are sundial guys.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know, like, I get the fact that Parise and Fiala, when they're not colliding, have had some chemistry in the past, and they look good on Monday. But just for the long term and watching Fiala with those two, I don't know. I feel for Fiala with what you're talking about when you don't have a center that you could put him with, because there is so much more there. And Kevin Fiala, to his credit, I'll give him this. I think he's worked hard through most games this season, Declan, to create plays. Like, he's gone and gotten the puck and he's created plays, and he can do that.
Yes.
But he is much better served if he's got a guy that could create plays for him. And that's not happening right now.
I'd actually I'd make the case that he's not as much of a playmaker that he was last year when he was creating more plays. I think he's being a lot more selfish this year because he has to be more selfish this year. He had a noticeably very good game and strong game on Monday. I wasn't at the game. You were there, but even on TV, you could tell on Monday. He was quieter yesterday for sure. He wasn't as strong.
Yeah.
He spent where he spent the majority of his season has been with Joel Eriksson Ek. Now, Ek has been thriving recently with Foligno and Greenway.
Yep.
And you don't really want to break up that chemistry line. Plus, it goes back to the shutting down that opposing top line. Yeah. I get that.
And that line started the year together, got broken up, and then got put back together.
Right. So, yeah, he has spent some time with Victor Rask. I mean, I think it's more of Kevin Fiala elevating Victor Rask than it is Victor Rask and Parise are slowing him down. But eventually, I think that catches up to you. Right. Eventually, I think, unfortunately, Kevin Fiala is going to get damn frustrated, and he wears his heart on his sleeve more than anyone else on the team, in my opinion, that he's going to get fed up with that. And because, look, he gets pissed when he gets a shot on goal and the goalie gloves it out of midair. You know,
he cares.
He cares a lot, and I love to see that. He was, like I said, quieter yesterday. So far, he's played decently with Victor Rask, at least like in terms of Corsi. You know, they are generating a lot more shots when he's on the ice with Victor Rask. But again, that's a testament to Fiala, who loves to shoot at will right now. I mean, Fiala's having a career season. He is having even a better season than he had before the leg injury in Nashville. I think he's even having a better pace season and a more overall better game than he was at the 25 game run he had last season before the pause. Every metric is up. His shot quantity is up. His goal rate is up.
He's a star player.
Yeah, he's
not Kaprizov, but he's a star player.
He is Robin to Kirill Kaprizov. He's the Batman of the Robin.
He's a great player,
and that's okay. I'm not the nerd in me. I don't like Robin. He's just such a dork, and Kevin Fiala is not a Robin to me. But the analogy still applies. Damn it! So I'm going to use it. There is something to be said that eventually you'd like to see him play with a little bit more talented playmakers. But right now, I think it's Kevin Fiala holding those guys up, basically, with spit and luck, for the lack of a better word.
Yeah, I just feel bad for him because I feel like he is, at his age and talent, he is ahead of the play by 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And they're sort of, I mean, look, they try, but Zach doesn't have any speed left right now.
Correct.
And I don't know if it's coming back.
Yeah, it
might not be.
Right now, Fiala's averaging 3.5 shots per game, which is a ton. His shooting percentage is 11%. That's sustainable.
I felt for him because I feel like he should be a guy with line mates that can keep up his pace at least, or close, on a nightly basis.
That's why if they get a center, and let's just say it's Sam Bennett. Let's just say it's Sam Bennett for this. I'm not saying it's going to be Eichel or it was going to be Dubois or Laine. Let's just say it's Sam Bennett, who I think obviously needs a change of scenery in Calgary. I'd rather see Bennett play alongside Kevin Fiala than I would rather see Bennett play with Kaprizov, because I think Kaprizov can carry more of that weight.
Oh, no question.
You know,
he's more Patrick Kane.
I'd rather see
hybrid center.
I'd rather see someone like Bennett, or if you're going to trade for, that league average or borderline top 6 center, I'd rather see them put with Kevin Fiala, because it's going to benefit him more than it is with Kaprizov.
Let me throw this at you, and you broached this before the season, and I was not for it full time, and I'm still not. But I firmly believe that if you're down by a goal or two in the third period, Declan, the idea of Kaprizov and Fiala to me now makes more sense based on this. Kaprizov is a hybrid center. Like, I don't know if he can win draws, and I honestly don't really care, okay? But look at how he sees the ice and his ability to make plays and his speed. And then imagine him with Fiala. You know, I think in their heyday, the Blackhawks often would pair Kane and Taves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they'd break them up, and then they'd pair them back, and it didn't matter. I just got to think that Fiala and Kaprizov, if you put them together 5-on-5 too, would have the ability, if you're down and need a goal, to really drive you. And I think Kaprizov would be the perfect guy then because he knows how to defer and he's decent. And look, I want him to shoot too, but I want Fiala to be put into a position to succeed. I'm not advocating playing them together full time, but I think there's more to see from them by at least giving them an opportunity at times.
Yeah, I made a big point at the beginning of the year that I'd like to see them together because I just didn't trust the depth of this team. And I'll admit I was wrong here. I usually am. That the depth has shined. That you have guys like Jordan Greenway taking next step. Marcus Foligno, for God's sake, has been a point per game player over the last month. You have a very established fourth line, even with Ryan Hartman out right now. But I think if you're down a goal, or if the script was flipped, if you were down 3 goals yesterday against Vegas,
yes,
you have to have Kaprizov and Fiala on the ice. You absolutely have to.
Which they've done a couple times, but they have not done much.
No, they have not spent a ton of time on the ice. In fact, I even have it up right now. So far this season, Kevin Fiala has spent only 31 minutes with Kaprizov on the ice.
Yeah.
Only 31 minutes.
Including power play time?
This is 5-on-5 time.
Okay.
This is 5-on-5 time.
Yeah,
so,
it doesn't feel like a ton.
So for example, he has spent over 109 minutes with Joel Eriksson-Ek. He has spent 87 minutes with Jordan Greenway. He has spent 75 minutes with Zach Parise. They have mostly been apart when on 5-on-5 even strength.
And for the most part, that's okay. What I'm saying is I think there's something there, and Kaprizov could be the facilitator to Fiala that could be successful.
Yep. I think there is something to be said about those two playing together.
One final thing off the Vegas game that I'd like to get to, and it's not a wild note. It's one from the Golden Knights.
Okay.
Marc-Andre Fleury, okay?
Oh, yeah.
First of all, it's incredible.
Yes, he's the flower
power,
man.
He got pulled last night, and he gave up 4 goals. But without him, they probably give up 9 or 10 goals. Yeah. But here's one thing he does that I absolutely love. And this is along the lines of the fact that sports today lack personality, okay? Batting stances now. Like, we used to have these goofy, it was great batting. Yeah, all that stuff. Like, how many guys now, I mean, they all look the same, right?
Right.
Like, guys used to change their batting stance constantly. And now it's like, well, I worked with my hitting coach, and here's how I stand. Okay, what the Flower does, and I absolutely love it, and it's an old school thing, is when he makes a big glove save, he styles it for the camera.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was wondering where you're going.
Mike Palmateer, who played for the Maple Leafs and Capitals, was, as I recall, the king of this. Billy Smith, the old school goaltenders, circa 80s at least, into, I guess, the early 90s, but certainly in my youth of watching hockey, okay, the goaltenders would style glove saves. So if you made a big glove save, you wouldn't just make the save and be technically sound and there's the whistle and a face-off, okay? You would make the save, and Fleury did this last night, and you would hold the puck there with your skate sort of out, right? And you would sort of show what you just did for the cameras.
Yep.
I love the fact that this guy does that. Old school, because look at the amount of goaltenders now who make outstanding saves, and it's just, okay, technically sound, okay, here's the puck. Flower made a save last night, and who was that? It was an unbelievable glove save. It was right below me, so it was a second period save.
What was it, the Spurgeon one when he came in alone and pulled a Ralston and slapped one?
It might have been
one, and then I believe there was another.
But it was to the side. It was to the side of the cage. I think it was to the far side from the press box where I was at. And he made a great save, but he made sure to show you exactly that how he had made that save. It's a very small thing, and it's a flamboyant thing.
I love it.
But it gives you personality. It's what sports lacks now.
Great.
I'm so tired of technical things.
Yes.
I'm so tired of this is technically. It's a small goaltender version of the bat flip.
Yep.
Because you're showing the guy and you're showing the cameras and you're showing the fans, I got this puck. And I'm gonna stay frozen. That's what you do. You freeze the save.
No, it's very sexy. He was showing off, and it's crazy. It is absolutely crazy to me watching what has transpired in net with Vegas over the last year. So they acquire Robin Leonard last year. They go on a run. The season gets paused, but Leonard's still their guy in the summer.
And he's been hurt now?
Yep. He re-signs. He's still the number one guy. He gets hurt early in the season. Everyone thought Fleury, there was trade rumors to the Wild with Marc-Andre
He was going to be dealt. He was
going to be dealt. Now, and like, I feel so bad for Leonard at the same time because Leonard established himself. He looked like he was going to be the number one. He gets hurt. And now Fleury's back being the typical flower power and one of the most decorated goaltenders of the last 20 years, basically.
Yes.
And now Leonard's going to be buried. Like when Leonard gets back, I mean, he'll get rotated in for sure, but Leonard's probably going to be back to where he was in Chicago, where it's just like, well, what the hell do I have to do to be the man here?
Upper body, but by the way, for him.
Yep. So he's been out since February, but it's cool to see. And look, I think Vegas is so much fun to watch. You brought up the point, and I know he literally could have put more salt in the wound. Alex Tuch was so close to putting salt in the wound again on the Wild fans. He's good. He's fun to watch, man. He is damn good, and you could see why it was a humongous mistake to trade him, because I could not imagine a team that already has Kaprizov and Fiala and Alex Tuch possibly on the same roster.
So which of those two, one is going to be a Seattle Kraken, and I bet Leonard has protection. I bet Marc-Andre Fleury is going to have to be exposed. He's going to be with his second expansion team, and watch, they'll be good too.
Yeah, they could. Seattle won't be as good as Vegas was because those backhanded trades won't be happening as much, but they're set up to be successful. It'll be a good draft, though. Yes, they'll be set up to be successful.
Absolutely. All right, let's transition to this.
Okay.
Because it's back.
Oh, yeah.
It's back. All right. Can I take you back, Declan?
Oh, go for
it. To coming out of the 2004-2005 lockout. National Hockey League lost an entire season, okay?
Yep.
And their TV deals were up at that time.
Oh, I think you may have told me this story, but I love it anyway.
Okay, so I'm on a conference call because at that time I'm doing the TV radio sports column for the Star Tribune.
Yeah.
I'm on a conference call with Commissioner of the National Hockey League, our guy Gary Bettman. And it was to announce that Outdoor Life Network had secured the rights to the National Hockey League's cable package. ESPN was out. And so I think it was in his opening comments, and yeah, I've told this story before, but it's just fantastic.
No, it's great.
In his opening comments on this conference call, Gary's talking about, this is so exciting. They'd gotten paid something for it. And what a great partner ESPN had been. And then Gary says, in one of the most either just complete lies of all time and or making him the most naive commissioner to ever walk the face of the earth, he says, I'm sure our friends at ESPN will still feature as much hockey on things like SportsCenter as they always have. I dropped the phone because I said to myself, hold on a second here.
Wait a minute here.
You play a cult sport, which I love, but it's a cult sport. It's not a sport that necessarily is popular throughout the country. ESPN has at that time, I think, baseball for sure, National Football League, bunch of college sports, NBA, I think, by that time. And you're telling me you think that SportsCenter is going to lead with the Rangers and Bruins play tonight. Gary, you got something coming. Well, it's been since then that the cable package went from OLN to Versus, which then I think got bought by NBC, Comcast, the Xfinity folks, and then it transferred to NBCSN, which is going away. And by the way, throughout this time, I told you this too. I said, why doesn't this league accept the fact that it might not get as much from one network, but split the package up? The NBA has, baseball has, split your cable package up, because ESPN is a huge place to be. It is, like it or not, the single most influential sport. Like, it's not even close. Nobody says, I don't know tonight. Am I going to watch NBCSN, CBS Sports Network, or ESPN? Okay. So finally, this week, the news has come out, and I'm looking at a New York Post story here. ESPN / Walt Disney and the National Hockey League have agreed to a $2.8 billion deal over the next 7 seasons beginning next year that is going to put hockey back on ESPN, ESPN Plus, Hulu. It's also, I believe, or it's going to have 4 Stanley Cup Finals on ESPN/ABC. Now, there is going to be a secondary package, which I think is probably going to land at NBC again. And that package will include 3 Stanley Cup Finals, would include an NBC, of course. And then because NBCSN is going away, USA Network would pick up the cable rights. But this is the first time in a long time, TV-wise, that I think Bettman and the league have done the exact right thing. And it's not just Dex because of the games, which I believe the number that I saw is going to be more than 1,000 games over the 7-year period. But it's also because of the ancillary programming and the highlight shows that it's going to get back on the most influential network out there.
Okay, I saw so many comments already on this from people that were, number one, saying, "Oh, so are you finally going to show hockey highlights?" Number one, yes. That yes, you idiot. That is exactly why this partnership is now happening, and that is exactly why they will show it. Like, what the hell were you thinking? Of course they haven't been showing it because they didn't have the rights to it. And they've been like slowly crawling back with the ESPN Plus deal and that In the Crease show with Melrose and Linda Cohen, and I love them. That's great. But no, this puts hockey back on the map. You need this. You needed ESPN for multiple reasons. Number one, you said 2.7 billion? Is that what you said?
2.8 billion over 7 years.
That is humongous for the league, which, by the way, is going to be good news because the cap is flat because of COVID for the next 2 seasons.
Oh, it's huge.
That's going to inject some much-needed revenue into the league that they're desperately going to need. NBC has been great. I love what NBC does, but also being strictly on NBC is such a hockey thing to do of, hey, this is our niche sport. This is our specific network. We're not going to broaden our horizon. We know where fans are coming from, so we're just going to cater to those fans. You need to broaden your horizon. You need to put it out there. And now I know less games are going to be available, on national TV. I think it's only like 25 regular season games a year on ESPN/ABC. And you can gripe about that. But with number one, we're going to get thick in the weeds here, that with Sinclair and the whole TV broadcast sports regional networks being completely up in the air, them going exclusively to Hulu and them doing stuff with ESPN Plus, this is the new name of the game for sports.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to see, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe, I don't have the details, maybe like, what if NBA eventually, they're going to partner with maybe just YouTube TV? What if MLB does a thing just with Spectrum or something like that, right? This is the new norm. So like the insane satellite and cable TV packages that Judd Zolgad loves to pay for, that's eventually that we're going away from that. So if you truly want to experience hockey, and by the way, I'm guessing a lot of you already have Disney Plus and or Hulu, then you're going to be just fine. You're going to be able to watch a lot of these games before they just won't be on basic cable anymore. And that's fine. That's good. You needed this. ESPN and the NHL is a marriage that I'm happy it's back together. They need each other.
But the main thing too here though is that, and this is what they wouldn't do, and they left ESPN after the lockout because I believe what was offered to them at the time, and they should have taken this and tried to split the package then, was NBC. They jumped at the chance to go there and show games nationally because it was a broadcast network, but it was what they call a revenue share, which means we basically both profit, but you don't pay me a rights fee, okay? ESPN, I think, offered the same thing, and they're like, oh, no, we need a straight rights fee. Okay, but you're giving up coverage. Like you are forfeiting the most important sports network in the country. Now, the key now is this. By splitting the package decks, they still have to sell, and this deal's not done yet, 3 Stanley Cup Finals, half the playoffs, and more regular season games, which is, the bidding on that is down to NBC and Fox. So yes, you won't have, so ABC, ESPN will have X amount of games that might not be as much, but you're still going to have a secondary package. So there's going to be a ton on. And the most important thing now is you've got 2 networks paying you.
Yes.
Paying you.
Yes.
By the way, all right. So these days in hockey and all sports, we've got a lot of lip service about being inclusive of people, right? Like we got a lot of women deserve more chances, which they do. Black women deserve more chances, which they do. I see a perfect opportunity with the ESPN package to, instead of talking about it, do something here.
Yeah.
Put Linda Cohen on play-by-play.
Has she done play-by-play before?
I don't know. You can work with her if you have to.
For sure.
But the point is,
she should be involved.
Steve,
regardless.
oh yeah, and she will be. But Levy is a guy
Yep.
who does Monday Night Football and was never known until he started doing, I think, college games as a play-by-play guy, right?
He's built for hockey.
So, but he is.
Yep.
But my point is, they like to, and this is great, they have taken to promoting people who have worked a long time there and worked hard at studio shows, blah, 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 to put them on games. Linda Cohn on hockey, I think, would be perfect. And by the way, also, I can see the picture, so I don't need her calling everyone who touches the puck.
Mm-hmm.
But if you put her in the booth and she can improve gradually, and she is with a color guy that can bring something and they can have conversations decks, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I would think, number one, and by the way, and this is not to, I think Linda Cohn needs to be involved in the broadcast regardless, and I think she will, whether that's play-by-play, color, some type of ice side, I think she'll be involved in the
she'll
broadcast.
be involved. I'm just saying, I think that it should be play-by-play.
Honestly, and this is, for inclusion talk, yes, I love to have these conversations, and I know this is against inclusion talk, but you need to bring back Gary Thorne. Gary Thorne said he's open to coming back to ESPN. He would love to do it. Bring back Gary Thorne. And I know that's one step backwards when it comes to the conversation of inclusion. But Gary Thorne back on ESPN hockey would be amazing. Look, they're not going to bring back Thorne and Clement, as much as fun that would be.
Yeah,
they're not going to do both.
Here's the problem. I don't know that that they would pay Thorne now, because they're paying so much and they've allowed so many employees to go, and he wouldn't be cheap. I don't know that they would do that. It's a good question.
I think, well, because there's such a small amount of games, though, I don't know what the price would be. That they would.
I have no idea what the price would be. He's good.
But I would love to have Thorne back. And yes, no, I think Linda Cohn would be sweet too. Linda Cohn would be awesome.
But I mean, that's the type of thing that they should do,
Mm-hmm.
and that makes a ton of sense. So, but congratulations. This is where hockey should be.
Yes.
Because if you have an interest in growing the sport at all, you need to get it in front of as many casual eyeballs as possible.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I do not think casual sports fan finds NBC SN. I think soccer fan does, right?
Yep.
EPL, it's great.
It's the niche sports network.
Yeah. And hockey. But we know to go there.
Yeah.
Now you're going to have it be so on a random night, you're flipping around. You're like, I'm going to check out what basketball game is on ESPN. It's going to be a hockey game, and that's fantastic.
And that's good news. I love it.
All right, so
wow, meaty episode.
We're about done here. Okay, so we'll be back with a one-timer probably before next week.
But the Wild play.
They play
Yotes
Arizona
back.
Friday, Sunday afternoon. In fact,
Okay.
you know what? Let's plan on doing one Monday.
Okay.
Let's plan on doing a one-timer on Monday and back with a full show as well the middle of next week. Declan?
Pass, shoot, score.